Yep, today's daily task, 4 right, 3 down, because there's some sun coming out in here. Yeah, so got to move off the soft ground, of course. There is a nice little jack in the boot, so I'm going to move off over there onto firm ground, because you can't use a jack in unstable ground, of course. Car could fall on you, you don't want that. Okay, well, I cut a slit in here for this one here, which is halfway up the assumed polystyrene, because we half the pot is polystyrene, the one, the rest is charcoal with a bit of sand on top. I'm just wondering if the polystyrene will actually absorb enough water through it over time that it will get up to the charcoal and keep the charcoal nice and wet. I'm saying this because this one here, I don't know if you can see this, I had to fill it up with water. It wouldn't actually go in initially too well, and it will take like months for the rain to fill it up, sort of thing. But you can see there the charcoal, I don't know if you can see this, but the charcoal is quite wet there and staying quite wet. So we know from experience it's going to take at least 3 weeks before we see any greening at all, if at all any pinking, but I think we'll get greening rather than pinking. But but then again, it's in the sun, it's in a closed container. If the temperature gets up to 28 degrees, we know we can get, well, if we had some protein in there like egg or something like that, it would only take 9 days. So if you can keep a stable temperature around about the 28 degrees, your pinking time is about 9 days. And for every 10 degrees drop in temperature, it slows down by half. Every 10 degrees rise in temperature, you would expect it to speed up. So, you know, if you went from 28 to 38 degrees, it would be half 9 days or 4.5 days. And basically, Monday to Friday, basically, you start it Monday, by Friday you should be seeing pinking, if it can still grow at that sort of temperature. But most of the CPs can handle, you know, here with some of our tuberous drossy, you know, as long as you keep the nights cool, they can handle, you know, anything up to 45 degrees. As long as you get it down to, you know, the WA temperature, 21, 23 at night. You know, in other words, you get the night temperature is the day temperature. Do you understand that? Like here it's 17, 19 is the diurnal wobble. As long as you get the nights down to a diurnal wobble of what the day temperature top max usually is, the average top max is 17, 19 here, WA it's 21, 23. They won't go into dormancy, and like for the many members of the Polytala auriculata complex, you can keep them growing for 11 months, almost a whole year. I'm sure you could probably get them going continuously, growing, but you know, I can regularly do it for 11 months, you know. So that's what you want to do. So if you can find a way of cooling them down to the diurnal wobble temperature, or wherever your thing is, you can just keep them going almost continually. I mean, these over here, can you see that? Not only do they have a lot of colour on this one that has all the candle wax in it, but if you notice, the traps are really shiny. I don't know if is the camera picking that one up? How shiny the traps are. I remember seeing Phil Mann's one over in WA. He had small little traps and things like that, and they're really shiny and colourful and red and things like that. I just wish we had cell phones back then, but of course, you know, we had the 1,000 years of darkness thanks to the Dalek Church, of course, and we don't have Mozart on CD or anything like that thanks to the 1,000 years of the Dalek Church. Yeah, I'd like to rub it in. Come on, yeah. Would you trust a man in a dress? You can't punch my lights out, I'm wearing a dress. Yeah. I may be bum-buggering boys, but you can't punch my lights out because I'm wearing a dress. Yeah, right. Come here, sunshine. Auntie Jack will jump out of those bloody speakers and rip your fucking arms off. Okay. Yeah, no, have you noticed with this one, it's starting to get sort of, the sand is actually getting this sort of fawny, it's not khaki, it's like a fawny brown colour, similar to this one, which has the newspaper sailors on the bottom and the sand on the top sort of thing. And but all this is just sand and polystyrene. So So the sand is actually changing, and all we've got is just the polystyrene. Yeah, so I think we're learning. Some people say, oh, don't use polystyrene, but I think we're learning. One, the polystyrene has to be together. It can't be mixed in with the sand. You know, it can't be spread out like this unless we learn something. It's okay with the charcoal, because charcoal seems to be seems to stay wetter than the sand sort of thing. But if you have the charcoal, you've got to have a lot of charcoal. So it's got to be a full whack. And I don't know if you can notice this one. This one is actually starting to grow now. We've had a bit of rain to wet things down and wetten up the charcoal. But can you see it's starting to do this figure of 8, even though it's a white cape, of course. Starting to do this figure of 8 thing. And of course, that's a good sign of health. And also, I don't know if you can see this one down here, but can you see how the stipples there are red? Remember I mentioned a few months ago, I drew your attention to the fact that a good sign of health on capes is they do this figure of 8 thing with the leaves. They sort of bend back upon themselves, and also the stipples are red. And of course the roots will be red if the stipples are red. You might want to check that out, if there is a direct association between stipulate red and, I mean, what do you want to call them? It must be a Latin word for roots. Yeah. These are sort of, I thought they're going to die, but there's something a bit odd with this one down here. I've seen that look before. I think I might be able to trim the pots. I've thrust this thing through and it's probably ready to go pretty shortly. I might try something in there, but I still, the sand is, it's crap. Look, it's just not holding the water like this one is, you know. So unless that will change, if we get to all the cyanophyta growing up through the sand, it might change the water capabilities or the water capacity of the sand sort of thing. It might change. But anyway, I set up another one because yeah, I'm still in two minds about this thing. It was almost starting to dry out again, even though if we had a bit of heavy rain and it started to dry out again. Whether that will change once it gets to this sort of stage, like a month or so down there, and once the polystyrene is sort of knitted together and sort of moistened up, I don't know, wetted up a bit, yeah, got that little bit of moisture in it, sort of thing, it will be different. But so we got the blue, sort of bluey here, bluey grey, bluey grey, bluey grey. Now if this one over here goes, you know, a darker blue sort of thing, then I think I probably would have cracked the Drosera gigantea link. You know, Drosera gigantea, the most robust and colourful sundew in the world. You know, everyone raves on about Drosera, but if you've ever seen Drosera gigantea growing on deep sand, I mean, deep sand means 2 meters. In other words, it comes up from a hand-sized tuber through 2 meters and then grows a substantial Christmas tree-like shrub or tree in up to nipple height sort of thing, as a 10-year-old child. I think I've got photographs of me standing against bricks against my house sort of thing as a 10-year-old sort of thing, and yeah, I used to mention it used to come up to like nipple height sort of thing. Yeah, so very colourful, you know, sort of yellowy orange at the, you know, going out towards the the traps on the end. You see, that's what was made. I remember going back to the car, this little blue Mini that my mum had, saying, you know, I've found in my first stumbled across some Drosera gigantea at the Kennington Swamp, saying, you know, I'm going through the reasoning, well, it has to be a sundew because it's got sundew traps on the end of its leaves sort of thing, you know. But it looks like a tree, but it's can't be a tree because, you know, it's got to be a sundew. And of course, then I rifled through Rickett Erickson's book in the back seat of the car sort of thing, and of course came across the black and white line drawing of Drosera gigantea, because that even then it was hard. I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's sort of like that, but you're not really stating what it's like in the field, you know what I mean? I was having trouble connecting that line drawing to what I'd seen out, what I was seeing out in the real world sort of thing, you know, because, you know, you didn't mention it was this tall. you know, you didn't mention it was going to be that tough and that robust that I would stub my toe every time I went to Kennington Swamp sometime in the day between these stands of Drosera gigantea, whether it was just the way they grew, the way the seeds germinate, the way the tubers multiply, somehow it guides you in between them, so it forces you to, you know, if you're an animal, you go between them trying to avoid them, and bang, you get stuck on one. Whether the hangovers from many hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago, when there was a creature out there that doesn't exist anymore, and somehow it forced the creature against one of these, and they would all benefit. Now the creature would die, stuck to a Drosera gigantea plant, and as it decomposed, the other plants benefited from it. Whether it decomposed enough to actually kill that plant, but the other ones benefited, well, I don't know. I mean, you don't know how Mother Nature... I remember seeing a video recently online. It showed a butterfly, and when it closed its wings, it was just like absolutely, you could not tell the difference between it was like a eucalypt leaf or something like that. It was amazing. It looked like some sort of thing. I think, wow, you know, I look at those leaves almost every day of my life, you know, and wow, that's so realistic, you know, that Mother Nature can do that. I mean, you have to take your hats off to Darwin, you know, right on the money. Once you've seen this butterfly that's online on YouTube now, or I think it was on Facebook actually, closing its wings and just looking like a leaf. No, a real leaf, not one of these fancy ones you've seen in the past. So this was something more close to home sort of thing. I think, oh, geez, yeah, that's like a leaf we see here, you know. It's just amazing. Not one of these foreign, strange leaves you have no conception of. You know, this is one you've seen in every day in your life sort of thing, around here sort of thing. And you think, wow, that's amazing. And how many butterflies do this? I mean, there's quite a lot of them, aren't there, that have, you know, look like twigs and, you know, leaves and things like that. There's just so many doing that sort of thing. It's just amazing that they can actually do all that. So yeah, just got to take your hat off to Darwin. There's definitely a lot of evidence out there of the theory, but yeah, it's starting to die off the top of the here, but probably because we had too much rain and there's too much water in these things. But still growing, still putting, you know, still having active growth down there. Amazing. These haven't gone. Yeah, I said the leaves haven't fallen off. So as I said, once the organism is built up in the soil, it seems to be able to maintain itself through the cold weather, but it doesn't actually seem to be able to multiply, so it can tick over. It has maintenance sort of thing, and I think the plants actually feed off the organism. It's sort of like those dragons or something you get out in the desert. They just stand by an ant's nest and they go, you know, picking off, you know, because they're picking off one ant at a time. The nest doesn't know that then it's being, you know, they're being sucked off, and they don't notice, they don't bother, sort of thing. You know, it's just one ant at a time. I think it's like this with these little protein packets in the soil. They just, I think that's what the roots are doing. I think they're, you know, taking these, you know, things one little protein packet at a time, you know, on a reasonably regular basis sort of thing. But they can maintain themselves, you know, like a biofilm in the soil sort of thing. And it's like with this, you know, this cyanophyta here, it just keeps growing back. Every time it gets flushed through, grows back. Flushed through, grows back. It's almost like perpetual motion in a way, because you can't have perpetual motion without an energy source. There's no free energy out there. It's all a form of radioactivity. You know, anything that falls off by the square of the distance is a form of radioactivity, well, in my book anyway. So magnetism falls off by the square of the distance is a form of radioactivity.